Hello and good evening. It's now 19:05 in London and I'm Nikki Scott.
And I'm Luke Addison.
And welcome to the Together Talks. What a great evening we had last time with guest Michel Zafran and his incredible work towards eradicating polio. We hope you all managed to go out and spread the message on October 24th when we celebrated World Polio Day with several fundraising initiatives taking place all over the world. We really do all need to continue raising awareness and taking action for polio eradication worldwide. We are this close to living in a polio-free world, but we still have a few more hurdles.
Absolutely. My Rotary Club were out on the 24th, planting crocuses and spreading the word around Winchester. A huge thank you again to Michel for his fantastic talk. We are now 3 talks in, but it's far from over. We have some incredible guests lined up for the rest of Series 2, and we'll be touching on some very interesting themes and ideas. This evening, we have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Dr. Marilyn Fitzgerald.
Dr. Fitzgerald designed and conducted original in-field research focused on economic and community development taking place in 2 Central American countries. The results are published as her dissertation, The Unintended Consequences of Humanitarian Aid. She subsequently authored a book entitled If I Had a Water Buffalo. That was published in May 2012, and the foreword was written by Dr. Muhammad Yunus, the 2006 Nobel Peace Laureate. It was inspired by the simple request of an impoverished Indonesian rice farmer in an area where Marilyn was helping to fund a school.
Currently, Marilyn is involved in microloan plus projects in rural Western Guatemala, working for the empowerment of impoverished families through community development. She is passionate about achieving sustainable results by recognizing beneficiaries as major stakeholders and, most importantly, partners in the collaboration and negotiation of all projects. It's a way of thinking that Rotary and the whole humanitarian aid industry could and should be implementing.
A testament to her work and passion for a sustainable business, Dr. Marilyn Fitzgerald was a former group study exchange team leader in Bali, Indonesia. And upon her return, she authored a 3H grant totaling $475,000 to purchase medical equipment for a new blood bank in Bali. Within 3 years, the Rotary Foundation acknowledged the Bali Blood Bank was self-sustaining. The original and unique model was duplicated in 2 African nations and India. What an incredible opportunity it is for us to have her here with us tonight on Together Talks and learn more about sustainable projects.
A truly inspirational person indeed. Let us now welcome Dr. Marilyn Fitzgerald.
And her video, an introductory video.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Fitzgerald. I'm speaking to you from the United States of America in a small town in rural northern Michigan called Traverse City. So during this time in COVID, I've had a lot of time, like the rest of you, to walk and hike and reflect. And one of the things I've reflected on is how fortunate I am to be in quarantine in such a safe place. When we look at how many people around the world and their conditions for quarantine, it's pretty awful. So we're lucky for that. But one of the things I've been able to reflect on is joining together our Rotary theme of opportunity with economic development. Sustainable economic development is my passion. I'm so looking forward to talking to you about that in the Together Talks, and look forward to seeing you soon. So I'll see you on the flip side before the snow falls, and see you soon. Thanks. Peace out.
So hopefully by the wonders of technology, now we can actually get to meet Marilyn herself. Come on then. Hello, Marilyn. How are you?
Oh, I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. And thank you so much, Marilyn, for joining us all the way from Michigan, USA. You're our second international guest for Series 2. And we're really excited to hear about you and your work and why it's not just about the money. So our tradition is, as you know, to offer you the Together Talks soapbox. And so please take it away.
Thank you. I will take it away. My conversation is about sustainable community economic development. In many of the projects that we've invested our time, talent, and treasure, over a period of time have failed because they weren't sustainable. We helped build a dependency so that these projects are now dependent on us in order to be continued. Some of the tragedies of creating an unsustainable project include creating a dependency on us or our charity, so that these people that may not have been dependent on charity in the past are now dependent on charity. And this can happen when we plan our projects, when we plan, implement, and carry through our projects without ever hearing the voices of the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries, we've got to always remember, are primary stakeholders and partners in every project that we have. And when we don't include them in the whole plan of things from the beginning to the very end, we rob them of dignity and respect, and most likely are just creating another unsustainable project. So that's just not good for anybody. So we're going to talk about how to promote community economic development using the vehicle of microfinance to non-traditional and under-resourced entrepreneurs. Since 2013, Rotarians across the country have been refining a program to help kickstart communities that need their help. And so Rotarians are bringing together community leaders and institutions are bringing it together so that we can help needy entrepreneurs move on with their lives and accomplish what it is the rest of us have already known how to accomplish. Rotarians in many states have adopted this profile from Launch My City, and that includes Launch Detroit and Launch Raleigh. It could be Launch any city or any village anywhere in the world. And you'll hear more about that blueprint. So what's included in this program with Launch My City are 4 interrelated but independent initiatives that we provide for our entrepreneurs, that include business training, mentors, microfinance, and networking. And when these 4 initiatives are implemented with deliberate and careful planning, we provide entrepreneurs opportunities that enhance self-esteem, respect, increase the probability of self-determination, and best of all, sustainability, so they can carry on without us. These side benefits is that we build, the side benefits of this whole program is that we build stronger relationships within our communities and create a renewed relevance for Rotary within our society. So I'm advocating that we end the train of dependency and begin the opportunity train so that we offer opportunities to the entrepreneurs in our community through a program like Launch My City.
That's fantastic, Marilyn. Really loaded with information already, just listening to that. And especially these 4 pillars. I mean, that seems like I love the sense of pillars and providing the strength. I mean, I know there's many entrepreneurs who have a great idea of starting a business, but it takes a lot more than just having the passion for the business. So we'll come back to that in a bit if we may, but I'd like to start by taking you back to what was mentioned and referenced in the introduction, because I'm sure everyone's dying to know, how did you end up writing a book called If I Had a Water Buffalo?
Well, the book is based on research that I've been doing in the field, and the research really went from Indonesia to Romania to Guatemala, Nicaragua, Bangladesh, New York City, and Detroit. And so I spent many years in international work prior to the research that led me to sustainability and only dealing with sustainable projects. And so hardly anybody will write a book about all their mistakes, right? But I did. because everybody's going to make mistakes in the field. We don't always own them, but I own them so that nobody else has to repeat them. They'll make their own mistakes, but let's just have a little lesson on what you don't have to do wrong that I did. And then I end the book with talking about what I consider sustainable projects and why. And so that's the book, If I Had a Water Buffalo.
That's fantastic. And I think you reference this in your soapbox so often. There's so much good intention in the world to do good, but we actually don't stop and think about the impact that we might be having on a local,
right,
especially underdeveloped community by bulldozing something else that is going on in that community. So thank you. Over to you, Luke.
Sure. So, well, my first question, Marilyn, is how you got a Foreword by Nobel Prize winner Muhammad Yunus. How did that connection come about? And then what kind of inspiration do you draw from him?
How cool was that, right? That was such a stroke of luck. I was at a meeting with the Rotary Action Group for Community Economic Development, and I was sitting next to one of his people. And so we got talking, and I was in Toronto at that point giving a presentation, and he told me that Yunus was going to be in New York City dedicating another microfinance thing in the Bronx. And so I said, oh my gosh, I would just love to meet him. And he said, well, if you go to the Bronx, if you show up there tomorrow, and that was like on a weekend, and I had to be there by Monday, you might be able to meet him, but maybe not. I can't make any promises, but we'll see. And so prior to that, I had been talking to him about my book, which was just a manuscript at that time. And so he agreed to show that to Yunus. And I thought, if he just breathes on this, I'm going to write that up. He breathed, I held my manuscript, right? And so I thought, if he'll just do that, that would be great. But I spent the whole day with him. I was in the Blue Room with him when he was interviewed on the Today Show. Then we took a long limo ride together. And at the end of the day, after all of our conversations, I went to him and said, I have to leave early because I had to catch another plane. And he picked up my manuscript and he said, I will write the foreword to your book. And he did within about 72 hours. It was just amazing. I was so honored.
And you'd been a long admirer of his work for a long time.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of my research was based on his work. And the year that my research was published was the same year that he got the Nobel Peace Prize. It was such like all the stars lined up. It was beautiful. So yeah, microfinance was getting a lot of publicity at that time. And then my book just fed right into that whole way of thinking. So that was wonderful for me.
Yeah.
How do you define microfinance exactly, Marilyn?
Microfinance is a term used to describe financial services such as loans, savings, and insurance, and also fund transfers to entrepreneurs, small businesses, and individuals who don't have access to traditional banking services.
Okay, so so basically a short-term loan that they're due to repay, right? To get
right. Microloans, they're very small. When I first started to work with microloans in the States and worked with our Small Business Association, they defined microfinance as $10,000. Like that was the bottom of microfinance. And I thought, this is crazy. Like we don't want to do that much. We want to do about 1,000 to 2,500, right in that range. And it was a difficult thing to sell. And Yunus was here before me. Yunus was doing projects in New York City, and I went and investigated those projects. But just the idea of that small of a loan, people just couldn't comprehend it. But I've been working in various countries where the biggest loan was $250. And so it was difficult for people to comprehend how that little money could do so much good here. But the people that convinced me that those small loans would work was the agricultural industry, because I said, there's no way that $1,000 would make a difference there. And some farmers said, yes, it would. We would buy a hoop house, or we would start a turkey farm and harvest them around Thanksgiving. And they had incredible ideas, which they always have better ideas than I have. And it just took off from there. And then I decided that, yeah, if we could do it there, we can do it here. And it'll matter. And it does matter in our own communities. So that's great.
And is that the principle? That's how they launched Detroit? Because just, obviously you worked a lot overseas. How did it happen that Launch Detroit came about, where you actually helped relaunch the whole city, with some of these projects, right? And
in a small way, yes, I did. I came back from one of my trips and I was reading the newspapers, and that was back in like 2012. And they were talking about all these businesses leaving Detroit and these jobs will never come back. And the auto industry was way down. And a whole city was becoming like a ghost town. It was a scary time there. And I kept thinking about, if we could do microfinance in Guatemala for those people, why wouldn't we be able to do it in Detroit? So I went to District 6400 in Detroit and met with some friends of mine, Larry Wright and Mike McCullough. leaders in Rotary in that district, and they called together a meeting before I got there so that everyone would be there to at least hear my pitch. And that day they said that they would buy into it, that their district would adopt that program, and we would start a Launch Detroit program. So gave them the blueprint, provided all the training for them, and have since done the research on Launch Detroit.
That's fantastic. Luke.
Sure. So we've got two questions here, Marilyn, that kind of feed into each other. First is, what are the successes of microfinance? So does microfinance actually work? And then another question, or the opposite side, is what are some of the challenges of microfinance?
Right. Microfinance really works. That's for sure. Yunus brought over, I think he's got 3 million women now graduated out of poverty because of microfinance, and because he believed that poor people would repay loans if given the opportunity. So we know that it works. We've seen it work over and over again. I think that to see the ingenuity and the creativity and the hard work of people that are given an opportunity to somehow express whatever their dream was or whatever their passion was is just amazing. I think that that's like a big highlight. But it was also, through the years that I've been at it for about 15 years now, watching the generations within developing countries then be able to provide education for their own children and that kind of thing. And to see some of these businesses be taken up by the second generation. But it's so different than us going in and providing everything for them, and to see that sense of pride and dignity on these entrepreneurs' faces when they've been successful. And when I go there, they can't wait to show you every little new thing that they've done in their business, and they get to own it. They own that. And so it's that sense of pride and respect and dignity that their children then can now witness. Because I've been to plenty of countries where we're handing things out as soon as we get there, and we're handing out more things and more things. And, the parents don't really look at you. They don't really make eye contact, and the kids are excited, but it's just such a horrible example to show for your children that gets carried on for generations. I think we're telling those people, I don't believe in you. I don't believe you can make this happen for yourself. So I'm here to make it happen for you. Now, when I see people in sustainable projects that they now own and we've turned over to them, they make contact all the time, eye contact. They are so filled with pride, and their children are smiling and looking up at them instead of coming to us. And it's just a complete reversal on going to impoverished countries and see what they can do for themselves.
Love that. I don't know if you've got any personal stories, Marilyn. You talked about these 4 pillars that are critical to microfinance. What about a personal story out of the Launch Detroit program that can sort of demonstrate those 4 pillars?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of success stories, but I'll tell you about a guy named Willie, who, if you go on the website for Launch Detroit, you'll see a picture of him. He's very impressive and very inspirational. So Willie is somebody that lives in inner city Detroit, and he developed a company called All About Technology. He's got his master's in business administration from Wayne State University, but couldn't even get a car loan. Businesses were vacating Detroit like crazy. And here we have a company called Best Buy, and they have something called the Geek Squad. Okay, you've got that? So they help us with our computers. The Geek Squad, because they considered inner city Detroit so dangerous, they wouldn't even come and help there. They wouldn't even make a call there. And so Willie developed a company called All About Technology. And when he developed that company, he was the only one that was providing services in technology in inner city Detroit, if you can imagine. And so he finally got a little storefront. And so he's been so successful and done so well with it and helped so many other entrepreneurs along the way that he now takes donated computers and fixes them. He teaches kids, high school kids, how to fix a computer in technology. Then he can sell the computer, but also donates many computers and a lot of technology. And now he's wanted all over the city. And one of the first things that happened with our other entrepreneurs, they needed computer services, and Willie helped them get all set up. And so he has been able to graduate. When he did his Launch Detroit loan and paid it back, and then he took out a second cycle loan for $2,500 and paid it back. We provide information to the credit bureau. So he had finally gotten a car, but the interest rates on his car were so high that once he got that good credit report that he was repaying his loans, his payment schedule went down. So he was able to save money because of his new credit rating. And he also has qualified for many other inner city Detroit loans, but he got his start and grants. I think he got like two $10,000 grants for his business. But he started with something so simple as Launch Detroit. That's what helped him get launched. And so you look at people like that, and I'm so proud of them. They're doing so well with all of that. So, and they always have better, like I said, I've never had a better idea than they do for their businesses. They understand their communities, they understand what their needs are, and they're in the best position to figure out what will work and what won't work.
So there's a little bit of a technical question here that we've been asked by Krez Dickens here. Where does the original money come from to set up these loans?
The original money usually just for us from different Rotary clubs. In my early days, I got them. It's surprising how little you can set it up for. But in the early days, I asked for $5,000 to set up an agricultural loan up here in northern Michigan. Because I wanted to do group lending, so I wanted $5,000 grants that I would then make loans. And so getting the loan money is not difficult. I think the bigger challenges are figuring out how it is that you're going to take these non-traditional entrepreneurs and you're going to turn them into traditional bank clients. And so in order to do that, you've got to develop some kind of credit history and some repayment kind of a thing, and where they can look good and they can shine and they can be leaders in their communities then. So we've gotten our money from Rotary clubs. Launch Detroit got, I think, $5,000 from 3 different Rotary clubs. And that's just where I've seen it. The initial money comes from the Rotary clubs. Launch Detroit did also just complete a global grant. They had a global grant to do a 2-year pilot program for group lending. So I went down there and taught them how to do that. And that took off like crazy. They're doing great with that. So the loan money, you only have to get it once because they're supposedly repaying their loans. And then you got your money back again to make the second cycle loans. So we're charging people interest. I think it's at 2% right now on their initial loans. We use that interest money then for administrative costs, and they repay the loan. And so we never have to go someplace else to get more loan money. We've just got like a 96% repayment rate.
Oh.
And these are high risk people that no one else would lend money to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing when you saw like just what a little faith in them, believing and assuming they're going to react just like any other citizen and take their obligations seriously and repay the loan.
That's amazing, Marilyn. So a real Eve Conway, who works on the team with us, she's saying it's like a real hand up, not a hand out. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. And then one of our other pillars is financial literacy skills. So, we've got like a huge failure rate of small businesses in the state, and then people try again and try again and try again. And these are people with an education, like Willie had an MBA. And so how are these people going to know how to run a business if they don't have some kind of business training? And so we got that the first couple of years. We've had that donated from a community college where they'll meet with a group of our entrepreneurs and teach them things like accounting and marketing and social media skills and those kind of things. So they all have, it's varied through the years, but I think they get 5 classes now that they take together. So when they take that together, those classes together, that becomes their first networking opportunity, is that then they have each other. So then Willie had a group of people that needed his help. And so that helped get him started. Then we had a woman that was an insurance agent, and all these businesses need insurance. And so that was her first group of people to help get insured on their businesses. So the mentors are Rotarians and business leaders in the community. So that doesn't cost a lot of money. Now I think we pay $5,000 per class, like for a group, a cluster of classes for each group going through the program. I guess they got tired of giving it to us for free, but that's okay because now we have money. So it works out. But that's how you create your community partners. Is you go to them and say, we want to start this social business called microfinance within our community. And we have this group of people that we're going to train, and we're going to be responsible for these loans. We do have a bank right now in Traverse City that's interested in providing the initial loan money. And so for that, we've agreed to include them on all of our marketing and everything else, so that that can be part of their social responsibilities to contribute to this. But they only have to contribute once, because we're going to get the money back, right?
Right.
And we're going to then re-loan it.
So Marilyn, can you tell us a little bit more about the mentoring, how that works, how you find the mentors and the mentees, and a few sort of stories about successful mentorship stories?
Right. So mentoring, like, you think everybody knows how to mentor, but they don't, right? So when we told the Rotary Club in Detroit that, look, here's our businesses that we have a landscaper, we have a hair weaver, we have a baker, we have a technology guy, and they all need mentors. And holy cow, like, the club just jumped on it. We had more mentors than we had entrepreneurs at that point. But they needed training because you need to inspire someone, right? And you need to hold them responsible for their loan. So then we realized how badly we needed to get training for the mentors. So we now have mentor application and mentor training. I think that the mentors were a little overwhelmed. I think they were also concerned about where it was that they had to go meet with their mentees, because I wanted them to go to the business. I wanted them to go where we can't bring them out to the suburbs. We need you to go to where they're doing business every day. So that took a little bit. But once we started to get that combination down of making sure we had the right mentor with the right mentee, it was like magic. And when we've got a mentor, now we're doing like some group lending. And so we've got maybe 3 mentors for a group of 5, which is helping us be more efficient and not burn out our mentors. And they're recommending each other. So they're saying, Larry Wright is in landscaping, and we had a landscaping entrepreneur. If he could just shadow Larry for a couple of days on his business, which is a hugely successful business, and understand what equipment he needs to invest his money in and how to make this happen, that mentorship relationship then naturally leads into a networking relationship, because we have people that do things like cream pies and things like that in a really good place, and cookies and things like that. But one of our entrepreneurs is an event planner. And so Larry got her involved in helping plan Rotary events. Then we brought in our entrepreneurs that make cookies and pies and things like that. And Rainier, the Motown popcorn guy, that he's a big success now, they brought the things to the events. And so just like we take networking and mentorship for granted in Rotary, we're pros at it, other people don't have that same opportunity. We don't realize like how privileged we are to have that opportunity. So once we help provide that opportunity for others, first of all, we feel really good. But besides that, the whole club seems to embrace the entrepreneurs that they're supporting, and they find ways to use their businesses within their lives. And it is a wonderful opportunity for vocational service within any Rotary Club.
Perfect.
Yeah, interesting. When we spoke before, Marilyn, you mentioned that microfinance isn't just about money, and we recognize that you have a background in psychology. So one thing that I'm quite interested to know about is how you have implemented this relationship between being an expert in finance and economics, alongside being a compassionate humanitarian with this psychology background. How have those two things kind of complemented each other?
Right. Well, Willie's not the only one with a master's in business administration. I have that too. And so so I started to look at businesses around here. I didn't want to, but one of my clients said, I want you to come and talk to my company and the employees and all that. And so I said, no, I don't really do that. I do like a little therapy, right, Chris? I do a little therapy in the office, but somehow I got hooked into it, knew that I didn't know anything about business, went and got an MBA so I'd know more about business and I could be a consultant. But then I started to look at I looked at some microfinance programs and some sustainable programs and looked at the difference. Remember I said that difference between when an entrepreneur is making eye contact with you and you can see them filled with pride and you can see the difference that makes. It really helped me understand that this is way more than just about the money. This is also about how they feel about themselves, about dignity, about respect, and providing that opportunity for people instead of always taking it away from them was huge for me. And you know, I'm a psychologist, and it's hard to believe I'd ever listen, but I listen all the time to people. It's amazing to me that I would go into a developing country and tell them what was best for them. You know, like, where's my listening skills at that point? So I started to look at that and think, wait a minute, like maybe they have something to say. And that's where the rice farmer came in, and he said, if I had a water buffalo, like when he finally could speak 3 years later to me, developing this stuff in his village, he told my interpreter, if I had a water buffalo, I could triple my rice crop and send my own 3 children to school and I wouldn't need her. And I thought, this was a school I helped support for $72,000 a year to keep these kids in school. I thought, yeah, well, I don't do water buffaloes. But then I thought about maybe I do. Maybe if it's going to take 3 kids off my list, because I had 1,200 on the list, that's where my MBA really paid off here, that I could save like 180, right, a year for these kids. Then the rest of the village got into entrepreneurship. The women wanted pigs so that they could harvest the pigs and they could use them for nutrition and they could use the manure in the rice fields. The children wanted hens so that they could sell salt eggs on the street, which are snacks. And so the next 3 years, they, with less than $1,000 of my money, when they asked to do something to become entrepreneurs, I funded it. Within 3 years, they erased my $72,000 budget with less than $1,000.
That is amazing.
And you know, that's 3 years I didn't talk to them. This is sort of embarrassing, but heck, I wrote a book on it. How could I go into that village and never ask them? I understood, you know, the report that I got from the United Nations saying these kids they're going to lose a generation, they're malnourished, they have no future, they have no education. And so I went into this village and said, here, I've got the answer for you. You just sit back and I'll fix this for you. Never asking them. I could have said at any time, looks like there's a problem here. You guys have any ideas? Because they did have ideas. It took them a long time to be able to tell me their ideas. But once they told me, they became self-sufficient and self-sustainable. And so it was a huge lesson.
It's so good that you are prepared to share your mistakes. As I think, you know, it's incredible to think we didn't think these things through. And this is the definition of sustainability, is to start with that connection on the ground. There's a really good question here from Catherine Crofo Smart. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Catherine's from the Rotary Club of Hampstead, and she comes from the West Africa diaspora. Do you think that the Western world giving aids to developing countries makes it especially difficult to move those communities from dependency and make microfinance projects taken seriously?
I think we have trained the developing world well to become dependent on charity.
Yeah.
We have done that. We've done that training, and it's going to take some unlearning to help them understand that we believe in them and we believe that they can do this if we provide an opportunity for them to do that with some pride and dignity and respect. If you've not seen that movie, Poverty Inc., it's on Netflix. It is so good. And it talks about how when we keep providing all this aid, we're wrecking their agriculture, their textile industry, all kinds of interesting industries that they could be doing on their own. But because we're sending boatloads of clothes over there, they have no reason to do it. Or when we have somebody like, I'm not going to mention companies, but we have people where we're just providing all of these things for free. Where's the incentive? And where is their idea that they can do it? That this is a can-do thing. It's not, we don't have some magic here. And it feels really good to help people, but it's harmful to create dependency. And so when we go in there, that's what mortified me, to think, oh my gosh, I'm causing harm. I'm causing harm by providing all of this stuff, by creating a dependency. And when you start to connect the dots, you start to realize this can't go on like this. This has got to stop. So yes, I agree with, if she's saying this is, it's a problem. It's a problem. We have created a world of charity as opposed to opportunity, and we need to turn that around.
I'll never forget being in Zambia, in a very remote part of Zambian rural area, with my children, and seeing other children with a Chicago Bulls sweater on. I mean, it just was shocking to me. But bring it back, Marilyn, to Rotary Great Britain and Ireland for a minute, if I may. How do you think we could use this model to help stimulate our own local economies, which are obviously going to be struggling in the wake of COVID and all the impacts of COVID? Jen Allen is asking that question, and she's saying, you know, how can we offer opportunities to entrepreneurs who need support to get started in these very, very tough times?
Right. I think that all projects, all successful, sustainable projects begin with a community assessment. And if you go to the Launch My City website, then you'll see that there is a community assessment form there. So I think you need to go into your communities and find out what they need, what they want, what they're willing. Like I always ask them, I believe in appreciative inquiry, which is build on what they already have. So find out what their assets are and what they think they need, what they've tried to do to make that happen, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and build from there. I think our problem so many times is just coming in and saying, you know, they need food, so we're all going to donate cans of food. Well, they also need pride and dignity and respect. And the first sign of respect is to say, tell me what the answer is. You tell me what's going to make this better for you. And they will, if we give them a voice, if we allow them to do that. And so I think if you can get your clubs to look at successful programs in microfinance, I think they may get inspired. It's a very inclusive program, you know, because it includes all of us mingling with everyone else that needs entrepreneurial skills and mentoring and networking and money. And so when we do that, I think we broaden ourselves as Rotarians and we help fill a need in society, and it will all be stronger because of that. And so I think if you can talk to them like that, Nikki, you can make this happen.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you're referencing about this sort of real essence of Rotary. And I hopefully have some non-Rotarians listening as well tonight. But I think that is the basis of why Rotary works, is we work with other Rotarians on the ground. We get to know the communities. Luke, time's running away with us here. Do you have any other quick questions for Marilyn we can squeeze in?
Yeah, I guess just one question here is, what is your message to Rotarians and obviously non-Rotarians, particularly during the unprecedented times of the COVID-19 pandemic? What kind of advice would you give to them to keep going on now?
Right. Well, I did a Zoom call with some of our entrepreneurs in Detroit about a month ago. I was amazed at how flexible and resilient they were during COVID, and they've done pop-up businesses all over the place. I think to their advantage, many of them don't have bricks and mortar, so they don't have that overwhelming bill to always be paying. And they've been able to do pop-up things in the community, pop-up vegetable stands, sandwiches for sale. The pies are going door to door. They've been able to go on to social media and places like that and still promote their businesses. I think what we're going to find out after COVID is that many of the businesses, and I'm sure you'll find too, once they got away from the bricks and mortar, they found they could still be successful. And so I think it has spurred, it's gone on so long, right? I thought it was going to be a 2-week thing we're going to do here. I think it also has spurred some really creative thinking and some ability to reach out in the right channels for people and talk to people through Zoom, you know, that we haven't had before. So I think my advice is figure out what's going well for you now. Even if you're just scraping some pennies by, figure that out and don't give that up just because we're out of COVID or we're out of quarantine, because those relationships that you built and those customers that you built along the side are still going to be there and you're still going to need them. So hopefully we will all have had some time for reflection and take some good out of this and make sure we hang on to it.
Super. Well, I can't believe it, but we are almost out of time. So lastly, we just want to thank you so much, Marilyn, for being a fantastic guest this evening. It's been so interesting to learn more than just microloans through your experiences and your powerful life lessons. As you know, Together Talks is all about speaking with leaders to find solutions to the problems we are seeing around the world. And you are truly a great leader with a big heart and a passion for helping others. And I'm certain that our viewers have learned so much from you and will be able to use these lessons in their lives as they leave the talk today. So on that note, can we please ask you to share your 3 key takeaways that you'd like us all to act on?
Yes, thank you. And it's been an honor to be here with you too, by the way. So I did come up with 3 key takeaways that I think are important. The first one is to avoid developing charity projects and move forward with creating opportunity. So leave the charity over there, let's create opportunity. The greater the opportunity, the lesser the need for charity. A charity doesn't bring dignity and respect for anyone. Include all voices in any project plan. When you do that, that promotes sustainability, and that's really important. And last but not least, before beginning a project, we didn't talk about this, but this is so important. Before beginning a project, have an exit strategy. Know how you're going to get out of that project. When I had all those kids going to school, I did not have a clue how this whole thing would end. And they ended it for me, thank goodness. But always start a project. Before you start the project, have your exit strategy. And those are my takeaways.
Marilyn, tonight's been, you've shared so much expertise and great advice. And every time I've heard you several times talk, and every time I do, I always learn something new. And I think there's so much that we can do, whether we're Rotarians or other people in our communities working alongside Rotarians, to really help reboot our local economies, no matter where we are in the world. So thank you so much for sharing all you've done tonight. And some
Thank you.
advice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so please do take some time to look into Marilyn's book. It's called If I Had a Water Buffalo, How to Microfinance Sustainable Futures. And why not start looking into implementing a microfinance initiative of your own?
Absolutely. Thanks, Luke. And now let's end by thanking you, our audience, for being with us tonight and asking such great questions, joining us for this evening. We would like to remind you that tonight's broadcast, along with all of the Series 1 of Together Talks and previous sessions of Series 2, are available on demand on the Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland YouTube page, where we would like to invite you to like, subscribe, and share. And until then, till we come back together in a couple of weeks, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from me.
And thank you all. Goodbye.
Goodbye.